My brother had decided that I existed to serve as his personal emergency bank account, ready whenever he snapped his fingers. I finally cut the cord. His response was to call our boss and paint me as unstable and dangerous to the company. Minutes later, I was sitting in HR, forced to show emails that would expose everything. That was when I sprung a trap he never imagined. This is where the real story starts, and you will not believe the ending. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch the final part. And tell us where you're watching from in the comments. That pressure headache had been growing for almost an hour, a tight, merciless ring pressing behind my eyes. I stared at the quarterly portfolio report on my monitor. The figures were merging, shifting, refusing to stay sharp. The deadline was 5 p.m. a hard, unforgiving cutoff before the Asian markets opened. And my toughest client, a tech billionaire known for firing people over commas, was waiting for a perfect submission dot at 32. I had clawed my way up to senior analyst at Sterling Coal Investments. It was a cutthroat world that demanded accuracy, speed, and a mind that never slipped. All inside a glass office. I had traded my 20s for dot. The sudden vibration of my phone on the desk tore through my concentration. I didn't need to check the caller. That sound had become the soundtrack of my derailed plans. The sound of my younger brother. Mark. The time. 10:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. The message was exactly what I expected. Ally, huge opportunity. Need 5K by noon. This is it. I swear I'll return double. My chest tightened. That familiar mix of worn-out affection and dread settled over me. I knew this script by heart. If I agreed, $5,000 would evaporate into another hopeless scheme, another crypto mirage, another miracle tip from a friend of a friend. If I refused, my phone would explode with attacks, guilt trips, and vicious attempts to turn our parents against me. But today was not like the other days. Today, I had a non-negotiable deadline. Today, the $10,000 I had given him 6 months ago for a business license. Money he used to party in Vegas still burned in my memory. Today, something inside me finally snapped. I typed a single reply. Steady and unshaking. No, Mark. I can't. Do not ask me again. I hit send. Then I switched the phone to silent. Immediately, it buzzed like an angry wasp trapped on the wood. I ignored it. Text after text lit up the screen. Are you serious right now? After everything I've done for you? You're unbelievable. Sitting in your little tower. And the predictable final blow. You'll regret this. Allison, I swear you will. This time, the threat felt colder. Sharper. Not just emotional manipulation. Something worse. When the phone finally stopped, I stood still for a full 5 minutes. My hands shook so hard I had to clench them. The quiet in my office felt too loud, filled with the ghost of his rage. The adrenaline faded, leaving the headache roaring again. The guilt tried to crawl back in, whispering old lines, telling me to reach out, fix it, play the caretaker one more time. That was the role my family had handed me since childhood. I was Allison, the responsible one, the safe one, the sister who paid, cleaned, smoothed, rescued. Mark was the charming one, the reckless one, the one our parents adored even when he wrecked everything. They had always indulged his disasters and expected me to repair the damage. But as I sank into my chair, my anger hardened into something sharp and clear. I thought of the time he convinced me to co-sign his luxury apartment lease because a big commission was coming. 3 months later, I received a call from collections. He had abandoned the place and left me with over $12,000 in rent and penalties. When I confronted him, he laughed. Ally, relax. It's just money. You've got plenty. He never paid any of it back. Not the car repairs. Not the credit card balance I cleared. Not the dozens of small, Just help me until Friday transfers. My guilt dissolved. Only anger remained. I turned to my computer and clicked open a folder labeled Documentation. I had created it after the apartment disaster, thinking I was being dramatic, but I had saved everything. Every manipulative text, every lying promise, every attack when I dared to say no. I told myself it was for clarity. Deep down, I knew I was assembling evidence, preparing for the day I reached my limit. I added the morning's messages to the folder. Screenshot after screenshot. Mark never understood one thing about me. I keep records. Detailed ones. It is literally my job. Our relationship had always been one-directional. I was 4 years older, and from the start, I was assigned responsibility. He was given excuses. I was the achiever. He was the dreamer. Our parents loved that contrast. They fed it. They praised my grades. They praised his charm. I took loans, worked, and built a future. He found himself, through abandoned ventures, maxed out credit, and constant withdrawals from my parents' retirement savings. And indirectly from me. I was the one who drove 4 hours at midnight to bail him out after a bar fight. I was the one paying his rent when he was fired. I was the one stitching together the heckled himself a day trader and an entrepreneur, which in reality meant he gambled on risky stocks with money hadn't have and pitched half-baked ideas to anyone who would listen. He presented us life as a high-stakes, glamorous hustle. I knew it was a carefully constructed lie funded by our parents and my misplaced sense of duty. The antagonist in my life wasn't just Mark. It was the entire system my family had built. My parents were the architects of this dysfunction. Just last month, it tried to set a boundary. I'd called them and explained that I could no longer fund Mark's lifestyle. Alison, don't be so harsh. My mother had sighed, her voice dripping with disappointment. He's just trying to find his footing. It's at our world out there. He's 28 years old. I'd countered, my voice tight. I have my own future to save for. I can't be his personal bank. It's family. Alison, my father had chimed in using his final word tone. Family helps each other. Your brother needs you when you'll have a little less. Maybe you'll understand what real struggle is. The implication was clear. My success was a flaw, and my financial security was our source to be plundered. My sacrifice weren't seen as sacrifices. They were seen as my obligation. Mark himself was the most polished manipulator of all. Heckled weep on command, spinning tales awful about near-missed opportunities and cruel twists of fate. He was a black hole of need, and I had been his primary source of fuel for my entire life. Today, I had finally cut the fuel line. And as I sat in my silent office, that quiet felt less like a void and more like a shield. I knew the fight wasn't over. This was just the opening salvo. The reprieve lasted for exactly 1 hour. It was just long enough for me to finish the first draft of the portfolio analysis and start second-guessing myself. Was I being too hard on him? Was I the cold, selfish monster he and my prince thought I was? The headache was a dull, pounding drum, and the sterile echo of the office seemed to magnify it. Then my desk phone rang, the sharp professional chime that always signaled me boss. Mr. Davenport, Alison, could you come to my office, please? His voice was flat, devoid of its usual warmth. Mr. Mac clenched. I saved my work, smoothed down my blazer, and walked that short distance to his corner office, my heart hammering against my ribs. He was sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, his face unreadable. Close the door, he said. I did, and the quiet click of the latch sounded like a gunshot. Have a seat. I sat, my background read straight. Alison, he began steepling his fingers. I just received a troubling phone call from your brother Mark. The air left my lungs. I'm sorry. He called my direct line, said he was your brother, and that he was deeply concerned for your well-being. My blood ran cold. He claimed you've been acting erratically, that you're unstable. He said he was worried you were making reckless decisions with client assets. The lie was so audacious, so diabolical that it took my breath away. He wasn't just trying to get revenge. He was trying to get me fired. He was attacking the one thing that mattered most, my professional credibility. Sir, that is an absolute and disgusting lie, I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to keep it steady. My brother and I had a personal disagreement this morning. He asked me for money, and for the first time I told him no. This is his retaliation. Davenport held up a hand. I believe you, Allison. Your work here has been nothing short of exemplary. But you have to understand my position. An allegation like this involving client assets. It's a serious matter. The company policy. I have to report this conversation to Human Resources. We need to have a meeting now. The walk to the HAB department on the 12th floor was the longest walk of my life. I could feel the eyes of my colleagues on my back. Whispers followed me down the hall. Mistling reputation, built over years of hard work, was being tarnished in a matter of minutes by a lie born of petty revenge. The head of HR, a sharp woman named Carol, listened with a grim expression as Davenport recounted Mark's school. She then turned to me, her eyes clinical and assessing. Allison, we need to take this seriously. Your brother claimed he has evidence that you're in a distressed mental state. He mentioned erratic emails and voicemails. He's twisting things, I said, my voice gaining strength from the sheer injustice of it all. He is the one who sends harassing messages when he doesn't get what he wants. We'll need to investigate, Carol said, her tone leaving no room for argument for the protection of the firm and its clients. We may need to place you on administrative leave until this is sorted out. Administrative leave. It was a death sentence. The end of my career at Sterling Coal. My mind was racing. Mark was desperate. This level of escalation, risking his own relationship with me forever. It wasn't about just $5,000. There was something else. Something bigger. And in a sickening flash of insight, I knew what it was. Last week, Mark had emailed me about a co-investment opportunity, asking me to review a prospectus. It looked shady and he told him to stay away from it. But in email chain, he'd accidentally referred a conversation with the investment manager. The manager had written *Mark. The $50,000 is due on Friday. We have your sister's letter of credit on file. So if you're the foe, we will be collecting from her directly. At the time, I assumed it was just more of his blustering lies. A letter of credit. I never signed such a thing. But now I understood. He had forged my signature. He had used my name, my reputation to secure a $50,000 loan. Friday was 2 days away. He wasn't trying to get $5,000 from me. He was trying to discredit me, to paint me as unstable. Times before, times the fraud came to light. He was hoping that when the firm he scammed came after me, my own company would assume I was accuracy. Unreliable person who had signed yet document and forgotten. He was trying to ruin my reputation to cover Upa's crime. My fear, however, was immediately consumed by a white-hot clarifying rage. This was not a confrontation. This was war, and he had just handed me the ammunition to win it. Carol, I said, my voice suddenly calm and clear. You won't need to place me on leave, and you won't need to investigate me mental state. My brother is not concerned. He is terrified, and I can't tell you exactly why. I opened my laptop on the conference table. Carol and Mr. Davenport leaned in, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. This was the moment, the showdown. It wasn't going to be the loud dramaticness Mark had envisioned. It was going to be quiet, calm, and systematic. First, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard. This is the text exchange from this morning. I brought up their screenshots. Here is my brother demanding $5,000. And here is my polite, firm refusal. And here is his response, threatening me. Davenport's jaw tightened. Carol's eyes narrowed. This establishes his motive for calling you. Mr. Davenport, I continued. My voice level. He was angry, but he's also desperate. And this is their reason. I navigated to the email folder he'd saved last week. He asked for my advice on an investment. He accidentally included this email from the fund manager. I highlighted the damning sentence. The $50,000 is due on Friday. We have your sister's letter of credit on file. Asterisk. I have never signed a letter of credit for my brother. I state, looking directly at them. I have never even heard of this fund. He has forget-me signature. He has committed fraud using my name, and by extension the reputation of this firm. He didn't call you because he thinks I'm unstable. Heckled you to preemptively discredit me before his crime is exposed on Friday when he inevitably defaults. I let the words hang in the air. The silence in the room was absolute. Carol and Davenport stood at the screen, their face draining of colour. The entire situation had flipped on its axis. In the space of 60 seconds, I had gone from the subject of an HR investigation to the victim of a serious financial crime. Davenport wasted first to speak, his voice a low growl. He used your name for $50,000. Yes, I said. He was counting on our family connection, and hoping you would believe I was simply erratic. Carol picked up her phone. I'm calling legal, she said, her voice hard as steel. And security, we need to get ahead of this immediately. Davenport looked at me, his eyes filled with a new respect. Allison, I am so sorry you were put through this. The firm will stand behind you 100%. We will provide any and all legal resources you need. We will pursue this to the fullest extent of the law. Just then, my personal cell phone, which I'd placed on the table, lit up. It was a call from Mimiva. I silenced it without a second thought. The family I was trying to protect was the one sitting right here in this room. The career I had built, the reputation I had earned. The other own, the one built on lies and enabling, was no longer my problem. The aftermath was swift and decisive. Sterling Cole's legal team, a pack of corporate sharks descended on the fraudulent fund Mark had dealt with. Faced with a lawsuit from a Wall Street giant, the fund manager immediately cooperated, handing Gover the forged letter of credit. The digital signature was easily traced back to Mark's IP address. It was an open and shut case of wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. 2 days later, on the Friday, he was supposed to pay back the loan. 2 detectives showed up at his apartment and arrested him. Of course, my parents called me. Hysterical. How could you let this happen? Allison. Mimiva wailed into the phone. You could have just given him the money. Now you've sent your own brother to jail. He sent himself to jail. Mom, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. He committed a crime. He tried to destroy my career to cover it up. I am done. It's family. Allison, my father shouted from Anna Fairline. Family doesn't do this to each other. You're right, I said quietly. They don't. Goodbye. I hung up and blocked both of their numbers. 6 months later, I stood in what used to be Mr. Action Davenport's office. He had been promoted to a regional director position, and I had been promoted to his old job as president of portfolio management. Mark had pleaded guilty and was serving a minimum sentence of 18 months in a federal prison. I attended the sentencing. He never once looked at me. My parents sent me a single handwritten letter full of accusations and guilt. I threw it away without finishing it. The silence in my life was profound. It was no longer jarring or empty. It was a vast, open, beautiful, quiet. It was the sound of peace. It was the sound of being done. My headaches were gone. I was sleeping through the night. I was thriving. I had chosen my future over my past. And I had never felt more free. If you are watching this and have ever been made to feel that your success is our source for others to plunder, that your boundaries are a form of cruelty, remember this. The responsibility my family saw as my burden became the very discipline that allowed me to document the truth. Your strength is not an obligation to carry those who refuse tow it on their own. My name is Allison, and I'm the sister my brother tried to room in today. His crime is a closed file, and my future is an open door. That is my resolution. That is my peace. If this story resonated with you, like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Comment below with your own story of finally accusing yourself.